What's up, everybody? It is Uncle Mad here live tonight, getting ready to talk about the big event tomorrow, WWE 2023 Royal Rumble. Always a fun event, probably my favorite WWE event of the year outside of WrestleMania because it kickstarts the road to WrestleMania. It has all the fun surprises that a Royal Rumble usually entails. Should be a great show. Should be really interesting to say the least. Going to give my thoughts, predictions on the show, where we could be heading as we get ready to go down the road to WrestleMania. Looking forward to this one. Really looking forward to this one. It's been a while with the weird COVID era, the no fans era. It feels like this could be the year they really get the Royal Rumble back to what it should be. With Triple H still theoretically running creative, the momentum WWE has had this year, the improved storytelling, the improved quality of the show. Certainly hope that carries over into this Royal Rumble because, like I said, the Royal Rumble is probably my favorite WWE event of the year. So really looking forward to it. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about the show, talk about the matches. Very you right? Oh, he's coughing back there. Very light on the card announcement so far. We've got the two Royal Rumble matches, the men's match and the women's match, and then only three other matches announced. That feels light to me. This is just thinking off the top of my head. I don't know. I could be wrong about the overall amount of matches you usually see in a Royal Rumble, but outside of the two Royal Rumble matches. But I feel like it's usually like 5, maybe 6 matches, and then the two Royal Rumbles. You want to be on the show? But only 3 announced. There's been some teases of some other things that they could add late. Obviously, they've been doing a lot with Sonya Deville and Charlotte. Maybe they throw that on the card late. There was a tease of a Sheamus and Drew McIntyre versus Viking Raiders feud tonight on SmackDown. So maybe those are a couple things they could throw on late additions to the card just to add a few extra matches. But yeah, we do have 3 matches announced. I'll talk about those first before we get into the actual Royal Rumble matches. Got the, I don't know what's going on here match, the Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. This is, man, I had such high hopes for Bray Wyatt when he came back. It seemed like they were going to try to get him right, try to emphasize what had worked with the character early on and kind of get away from the weird mystic kooky stuff that kind of ruined the character as he went along. And so far, he has wrestled 0 matches on television, and his first match back is going to be a match sponsored by Mountain Dew with some type of theme, some type of stipulation, some type of what we have no idea what it's going to be. A Mountain Dew pitch black match. I can only assume that it's going to be like a really dark arena with maybe neon lights or something to try to I can't imagine they're just going to turn the lights off and just wrestle in the dark and you're not going to be able to see the match. There's going to be some kind of weird lighting effect on this. It's very bizarre. The whole thing's bizarre. It's kind of, I'm still hopeful because there's a storyline way they can turn this into making it cool and still kind of fixing the Bray Wyatt character, but just the whole throwing him into a weird, bizarre themed match that we don't even know what the rules are is just such a weird way to give him his first match back after his big return a few months ago. If there's a way to win the match, we don't even know if you can win the match. I assume you can because it's a match, but Bray Wyatt has to win here unless the Uncle Howdy character somehow cost him the match, which I'm not sure if Uncle Howdy's supposed to be against Bray Wyatt or if he's supposed to be aligned with Bray Wyatt or if he's supposed to be Bray Wyatt. I don't know, but would be very weird for Bray Wyatt to lose his first match back. I'll talk about it more eventually when I do a WrestleMania preview, but I feel like Uncle Howdy is supposed to be a separate character that's supposed to be kind of taunting Bray Wyatt, and I feel like whoever Uncle Howdy ends up being is who Bray Wyatt will face at WrestleMania. I think the speculation out there has been the rumor is that the person who's playing Uncle Howdy, spoilers potentially here, is Bo Dallas, who is Bray Wyatt's brother, which would make a lot of sense. It always kind of was weird. They had them, and they're very different characters back in the day when they were both on in WWE their first runs. But it always kind of would have made sense for them to eventually cross paths, but they just were never right on the same trajectory there. So Bray Wyatt probably wins this match, but we don't even know what the match is, so we don't even know how you win or what that means to win. But I would think we're going towards Bray Wyatt versus Uncle Howdy / maybe Bo Dallas at WrestleMania. So Bray wins here. Very weird setup, very weird situation there, but it is what it is. I just hope it's not like that weird Miz Damian Priest zombie match that was sponsored by The Walking Dead or whatever that match was sponsored by, where they had to have zombies show up. I hope they can keep the Mountain Dew sponsorship influence on the match to a minimum here. And who knows? Maybe they have some really cool gimmick, some really cool theme set up, but just everything about it just sounds bizarre and almost like the bad WWE we've got away from over the last 8 months. It seems like it's coming back with that. I don't know. We've been told Vince McMahon's not involved with day-to-day operations or with creative right now, but this feels very Vince McMahon-like. But we'll see what happens there. So, yeah, Bray Wyatt wins whatever that match is. I don't know. Next up, we've got Bianca Belair versus Alexa Bliss. Singles match for the Raw Women's Championship. This one could obviously have some influence with the Bray Wyatt situation, because obviously there's been some weird supernatural elements in Alexa Bliss's story lately, where she's being tied back into her history with Bray Wyatt and the Firefly Funhouse. Uncle Howdy's been a part of her stories too, so Bianca's had a long run with the belt. Typically around the time of the start to the road to WrestleMania, get some of the belts on heels to let babyfaces chase them going into WrestleMania. So maybe there's something that plays out of the Bray Wyatt match that leads to Bianca Belair winning here, or excuse me, Alexa Bliss winning here. Then you've got a heel champion that either Bianca Belair can chase after, or whoever wins the Women's Royal Rumble can go after. I mean, Bianca Belair has been really good as a champion. It doesn't feel like, there's any real reason to take the belt off her here. But if you've got a bigger story that you're trying to tell with Alexa Bliss and the Bray Wyatt, Uncle Howdy of it all, it makes sense to maybe put the championship on her and kind of pull a new babyface in to eventually challenge her. I don't know. That one's a hard one to predict. I mean, I would probably keep the belt on Bianca Belair just because she's been a good champion. She's been really good in the role as the Women's World Champion on Raw. But if you've got a bigger storyline to tell with Alexa Bliss, that's where the belt goes. I guess I'd probably predict if Alexa Bliss wins it somehow, because it seems like it's just too connected that we've got a Bray Wyatt match and an Alexa Bliss match. It's Bray Wyatt's first match back. I've been all kinds of teases of her previous connection to him. So I'm going to predict Alexa Bliss wins the Raw Women's Championship over Bianca Belair, sets up somebody to come try to chase her and win the belt on the road to WrestleMania as we go. And then the only other non-Royal Rumble match we have announced for the show is Roman Reigns, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, who has been that for almost 900 days at this point, which is crazy, defending against Kevin Owens. Obviously, the big thing behind this has been playing into everything that's been going on for the last 6-7 months, whatever it's been, where Sami Zayn has aligned himself with Roman Reigns, has made himself a unofficial / official member of the Uso family, official member of the Bloodline. And now his former best friend, longtime, rival, even Kevin Owens, has become the most direct opposition to Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Saw tonight on SmackDown, Kevin Owens versus Solo Sikoa of the Bloodline was the main event. Sami Zayn showed up to try to interfere on behalf of Kevin Owens, or on behalf of Solo Sikoa. Didn't work out. Kevin Owens walked out standing tall tonight, which usually means he's not winning in the next show. But there's further teases that this could lead to the dissolution of Sami Zayn's relationship with the Bloodline because he was unsuccessful in helping Solo Sikoa tonight. Solo Sikoa accidentally super kicked him. Roman Reigns specifically told Sami Zayn to not show up until Saturday at the Royal Rumble, and then he broke that rule and showed up tonight on SmackDown. Although one of the Usos asked him to do that, so it's weird. We'll get into the whole situation more when we get into talking about the actual Royal Rumble match, but I, Roman Reigns clearly wins here. He's not dropping the belt before WrestleMania. This is the story they've been building for, going on 2 years with Roman Reigns. It's not stopping here. It's going on to at least WrestleMania. This is just a piece of the puzzle. I'm sure it'll be a really good match though. These two guys, no doubt, will have a really good match. It should be by far the best match on the show. But I don't think there's any question Roman Reigns will win the match. Will Sami Zayn cost Kevin Owens the match, or will he attempt to help Roman Reigns and accidentally almost help Kevin Owens? A lot of ways they can add to the ongoing storyline in this match, but ultimately, like I said, Roman Waynes. Wow, whole Porky Pig over here. Roman Reigns is going to win, retain the title. He'll be the champion going into WrestleMania for sure. He'll be in the main event at WrestleMania against somebody. We'll get to that in a second when we talk about the actual Royal Rumble match. First, we'll talk about the women's Royal Rumble match. This thing is going to be wide open. There's literally could be almost any body could win it because, you could have one of the more established women to set up a bigger main event. You could have one of the newer, younger women win to kind of give them a boost and kind of elevate them. So you can kind of go any way you want. And the fact there's still the women's titles are still split. You still got two champions. You've got the Raw champion, which is currently Bianca Belair. You got the SmackDown champion, which is currently Charlotte, meaning the Royal Rumble winner can challenge one of two people, makes things even more open to possibilities. The other thing that makes this thing wide open is you've got right now only 12 out of 30 announced participants for the Women's Royal Rumble. So you've got 18 spots that, as of now, have not been announced. I would imagine by the time we get to the show, it'll be closer to 17 or 18 announced because they've been having a lot of people on social media announce that they're going to be in the Royal Rumble. So even though we had the go home show today, it's possible there'll be Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook announcements of more people being announced as officially being in it. But as of right now, we've got 12 entrants. Liv Morgan's in it. They gave her a decent run this past year, but she's kind of faded a little bit. But they could let her win it to kind of re-kick-start her. You got Candice LeRae. Once again, I think just about everybody in this match could theoretically win because even the people that haven't been that, involved or pushed, winning the Royal Rumble would certainly be a big kickstart to them. And they've got a lot of good women here announced that they could certainly, elevate. But most of them seem unlikely. Rhea Ripley could be her. She's been one of the more over women, but feels weird for her to be the main event woman thing because she's more associated with everything that's going on with the Judgment Day and Dominic Mysterio. So it doesn't feel like she's ready for a singles thing off to the side of that. Raquel Rodriguez, they've pushed her pretty strong, mostly. Could want to elevate her and make her a new kind of big baby face for them. Shayna Baszler, I could have seen it made sense if Ronda was still in the mix. Ronda was still champion. Now, supposedly Ronda's not a part of the Royal Rumble. I don't know if she's done with this little stint of WWE for now because she's dropped the title to Charlotte Flair and hasn't been heard from since. And everything I've read between, the different wrestling news sources, Meltzer, Fightful, all seem to indicate that Ronda Rousey is not planned for the Royal Rumble. Could come back in time for Mania for something else. Whichever title isn't challenged by the Rumble winner possibly, but not in the mix there. But Shayna would only make sense to win the Rumble if it was going to be like Shayna versus Ronda. Selena Vega, that's one I don't think has much of a chance to win the Royal Rumble. Emma, probably not. Bayley, maybe. Dakota Kai and Io Sky doesn't make much sense because they're kind of Bayley's lackeys. Unless you want to do a story where one of them wins and then Bayley's kind of like, why did you win? I was supposed to win, blah, 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 type thing. Lacey Evans could be. They seem to be, once again, trying to push her, but she's had the weirdest trajectory, the weirdest career ever. She comes back as a babyface, then disappears for a month, comes back as a heel, disappears for a month, comes back as a babyface, disappears for a month. She's back as a heel now, big time heel promo, big time heel match tonight on SmackDown, but Seems like it's been too stop-start for her to suddenly win the Royal Rumble and go forward there. I almost feel like the Royal Rumble winner is going to be somebody that's not currently announced. Like, one that sticks out like a sore thumb right now is Becky Lynch. Doesn't have a match on the show and is not currently announced for the Royal Rumble. Obviously, they did injury angle with her on Monday Night Raw this week, but that could just be to build to a big return. You could see Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky kind of standing tall at a certain moment. Bayley's music hits, big pop. She comes out, runs roughshod on them, throws them out of the match. She does a match with Bayley somewhere on the road to WrestleMania and then challenges whoever she's going to challenge at WrestleMania. That probably would be my prediction right now off the top of my head, would probably be Becky Lynch. That makes the most sense to me out of people, that could be set up for a big WrestleMania match. I mean, Becky, the biggest women's match you could probably do at WrestleMania right now is Becky versus Charlotte. Because they're, without question, the two biggest women's stars WWE has had. And they've also got the intrigue of their sort of real life personal beef, best friends who had the falling out type thing. There's a lot of story that could be told there, so it'd make a whole lot of sense for Becky Lynch to win the Royal Rumble and then challenge Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania and have that just big match that you could have had all along there. Because Becky versus Ronda would have made a lot of sense, but it seems like Ronda's out of the mix now. Becky versus Bianca, you've done multiple times. If Alexa Bliss wins the Raw Women's title, you could have Becky fight her, but I mean, that's not that intriguing a match. Like, Becky versus Charlotte's like the biggest match you could probably do on the women's side, and that would make a whole lot of sense to do that. So I think I have to predict, even though she's not currently announced as being a participant in it, I can't imagine she won't be in it. I think Becky Lynch is probably your best bet to win the Women's Royal Rumble and then to challenge Charlotte Flair. They could even do a little runaround like they did last year, where somehow Becky ends up as Raw champion and you end up with the Raw Women's champion versus SmackDown Women's champion. Kind of the same thing they did with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar last year. Kind of the same thing they did with Becky Lynch back in the past when she was Becky Two Belts. But we'll see. That'd be my best bet for her. In terms of like surprises for the women's side, they've got a ton of women that are on the roster that just aren't announced. Like Doudrop apparently is back, could potentially be in this. Brooke, what's her name? Dana Brooke was doing interviews today where she was talking about being in the Royal Rumble, even though she's not announced for it. And they've just got a ton of other women that are just kind of hanging around that could be in it. Mia Yim is one. Yeah, they just got a lot of women that aren't announced yet that are just on the roster that could be announced. Could pull up some NXT people, but it seems like they've moved away from the last couple of years, and maybe they'll still change this year, but it seems like they've moved away from NXT people coming up. Like, they don't want to bring them in until they're going to be on the main roster. Chelsea Green, there's been rumors for months that she's signed to WWE and she hasn't debuted yet, so possible this could be a return spot for her. Veterans like Lita are probably already in the mix, are always in the mix to be contenders to come back. Trish Stratus, would be a big pop, but I think Lance Storm in a podcast earlier this week said that she's filming Canada's Got Talent right now, so she might not be available. Molly Holly works there as a producer, so she'd be an easy one to just be able to come out and be in the match and go there. Surprises, debuts, stuff that's off the radar. I don't really have any more off the top of my head. I don't think there's any chance of this at all. I'm pretty sure there's no way this could happen. But there might be like a 2% chance that Sasha Banks is in the Royal Rumble. And I say this because she's announced for a New Japan show in San Jose next month as part of her return. She came back, re-debuted at Wrestle Kingdom for New Japan. She's challenging former WWE superstar Kairi Sane. Did I say that right? I think I got that right. For the IWGP Women's Championship at that show, Battle in the Valley. But if you follow wrestling news, there's some weirdness to the deal. It's maybe not necessarily like a concrete contract with him. I don't think she's not going to do that show for New Japan, but it almost seems like there's an opening for her to be able to do other things, including WWE. We've seen recently Carl Anderson be able to kind of go back and forth to fulfill the dates he had booked with New Japan and then still do WWE stuff. It's not completely impossible. I don't know the contract situation. This is just reading between the lines of some stuff I've seen online. There was some speculation that there was an AEW Dynamite in LA a couple weeks ago, and they initially made a tease that it was going to be Paige and a mystery partner against Paige, or aka Soraya, as she's going by now, and a mystery partner against Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. And there was a lot of hints, a lot of teases early on in the build to that Sasha Banks or I can't remember what her new name is, Maria Monet, or something like that. There was a lot of teases early on that she was going to be Soraya's mystery partner, and then that all kind of got faded away really quickly. They almost stopped even talking about the match for a few weeks. And from what I've read, from what I've heard, it seems like there was initially that was the way AEW wanted to go, but either they felt it would go against New Japan to have Sasha show up in AEW before her first New Japan match, or they were concerned that they couldn't lock her into a contract that would keep her from eventually just going back to WWE very quickly, and were unwilling to, bring her in because they were just worried that she was going to do the one match and then be back in WWE a week later. That leads me to believe that there's at least some opening, some potential loophole for her to be back in WWE sooner than we may think, but I would be shocked the case if that's the case here, because it seems she's pretty locked in to working with New Japan for at least the immediate future. But like I said, with the Carl Anderson situation, we've seen that people aren't as locked into New Japan. It's a weird place. Like, it doesn't seem like contracts, especially with the American talent, is always as locked in as it probably should be if you're going to be booking people and advertising people. But I don't think it's going to happen, but there's at least like a 1 to 2% chance it does. And if it does, if Sasha Banks is in the Royal Rumble, I think she wins it. But I think that's a very, very small chance she does. The one who's more likely to make the surprise return here, when talking about Sasha Banks, just came into my head, is Trinity Fatu, aka Naomi, Sasha Banks' partner, who also took a leave of absence from WWE at the same time as Sasha Banks. Obviously, we've seen Sasha Banks has made her reemergence, made her next career move, and there just hasn't been a whole lot on Trinity Naomi since then. Obviously her family is still very much involved in WWE. She's married to one of the Usos. She's part of the bloodline by marriage. But Sasha Banks has made a big splashy return outside of WWE, and things have kind of gone quiet on Trinity. A big return for her at the Royal Rumble could make sense, and maybe she could win it if she comes back. It seems like for her to come back, if she was unhappy with the situation she was in WWE, giving her a pay raise and letting her win the Royal Rumble would certainly be a way to attract her into coming back. But I don't know. That one makes a lot more sense than Sasha, just because we know Sasha has at least some type of contract with New Japan. But Naomi, we really don't know what she's up to, what her plans are, what she's going to be doing. She may even still be under contract to WWE. We don't know anything about what the resolution of her side of that situation was. So should be good. It should be interesting, just because it's so wide open. So many people could win. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on the women's Royal Rumble. So we got the men's Royal Rumble, obviously, is next. And there's 19 out of 30 entrants have been announced for the men's Royal Rumble. This one, it's always good. I think this one will be more fun for just what surprises, what, pop-ups we get there, because I think it's, at least in my mind, it's pretty clear-cut how it's going to go in terms of who wins. I think the women's Rumble, in terms of who could win, is way more wide open. Because like I said, I would think it'd be Becky Lynch. That would make a lot of sense, but you could really do whatever you want there, have whoever you want to win, and you could still set up Becky Lynch versus whoever at WrestleMania because you've got 2 titles on the women's side. Where the men's side, you've only got Roman Reigns. That's the match that you're setting up with the Royal Rumble, is who's going to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So it's kind of more direct. I think it's a more narrow path of what they could do there. But here's who's been announced so far: Kofi Kingston, Santos Escobar, Ricochet, Austin Theory, Seth freaking Rollins, Bobby Lashley, Baron Corbin, Rey Mysterio, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, Omos, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Braun Strowman, Karrion Kross, Dominic Mysterio, Xavier Woods, The Miz, and Brock Lesnar. All right, so from that list, the people that are announced, there's only one name on that list of 19 that I think can win the Royal Rumble, and it's Cody Rhodes. They've obviously been pushing him really hard ever since he came back from AEW. Multiple video packages for him in his lead up to his return at the Royal Rumble. His whole storyline, basically since he came back to WWE, was that he came back to win the World Championship. That's his whole point. He's not just back to be Stardust. He's not just back to be on the roster. Day one, since he returned last year at WrestleMania, the whole story has been Cody Rhodes came back to WWE to do what he's never done, to do what his father wasn't able to do, to win the WWE World Championship. So, right out of the gates, he seems like a very obvious person to win. He's, like I said, of the announced names, he's the only one that I look at and I say that person can win. Like, Kofi, he's going to do some crazy spot, but he's not going to win. Santos Escobar, no chance. Ricochet, same as Kofi. He'll probably have some really athletic, cool spot, but he's not going to win. Theory, no. I think I know what he's going to be doing at WrestleMania just from, reading stuff and teases and stuff we've already seen. Seth Rollins, no. I mean, very small chance because you've got a natural kind of storyline between him and Roman Reigns. Bobby Lashley, no. I think they're really setting up to go with another Lashley-Lesnar match. Corbin, no. Mysterio, I think we probably know he's probably wrestling his son at WrestleMania. Gunther, no. Although that'd be very cool. He's really good. He's one of my favorites right now. Like I said, Cody, probably almost no. Drew, maybe. They've really kept Drew and Roman Reigns apart. They haven't really have them face each other. Drew's a guy that could come in and, they've got behind him at times, but it seems like they're not there right now. He's more doing tag team stuff with Sheamus. So Sheamus, no. Strowman, no. He just has won a tag team match with Ricochet Knight. Looks like they might be going after tag titles. Karrion Kross, no. I think they'd like for him to be a guy that could be in that position, but just he's missing something. Like, he's got a good look. The whole act with him and Scarlett is really good, but in the ring he just doesn't connect. He doesn't really hit the way you need to a couple years from now maybe he could be big time heel holding the title that somebody else is chasing, but he's not winning here. Dominic, no. Xavier Woods, no. The Miz, no. Brock Lesnar, if Vince McMahon takes back power between now and tomorrow night and is in charge of creative, he might feel like he has to do Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns part 50. But outside of that, no. So that leaves, you got Cody, or you've got somebody who's not announced yet for the Royal Rumble. Now, there's going to be, similar to the women, of the 11 spots left, I would say 6 or 7 of those are going to be taken by people that are on the roster that just aren't announced for the match. You got a lot of tag team guys that could just fill spots there. Chad Gable, Otis, Street Profits. There's hundreds of guys on the roster that could fill out some of these empty spots. I would bet money, if I was going to bet money on somebody that's not currently announced that will be in the Royal Rumble, I would bet money, and this could totally be wrong, but Titus O'Neil. I think they love it. Maybe with Vince being not in control of creative, this won't happen, but ever since he tripped and fell on the way to the ring for the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, they've loved to find ways to rehash that and bring that back up. So I could totally, absolutely see Titus O'Neil being in this match and having some kind of he's a clumsy idiot spot that they set up for him. But other guys, I wrote down some names that I thought could potentially be surprises of the people that aren't announced. I would, beyond Titus O'Neil, one non-announced person that I would definitely bet has a good chance to be in this match would be Edge. He's been gone for a little while. They've kind of not really referred to his absence, so his return would be a big surprise again at this point in time. Finn Balor's not announced for the match. That's a guy who's on the roster who could easily show up in the match. I think Edge Finn Balor's a match they want to make at some point in time, whether it's for WrestleMania or somewhere before. So having both of them in there and setting up their future match would make a lot of sense. Uh, there's three guys who I don't really know what their timeline is to return because they're all out for various reasons and they might not be ready yet. Matt Riddle, reports that he was out for rehab or potential suspension for a policy violation. I don't know what the timeline on that is, but if he's available and ready to come back, he would make sense as a surprise. Randy Orton, similar right there with Riddle. He's been gone for a little while, but I think he announced he had only had like a back surgery a month or two, maybe 3 months ago, so it seemed like probably too soon for him. And there's even certain speculation that he might not be coming back for a very long time because of the back surgery. Big E's been out for a very long time. He had a very bad neck injury that put him out of action. It's one of those where a year to maybe you never know until you fully get through it if you can even wrestle again. But I've seen he's in San Antonio. He's doing media for it. Everybody said he looks in really good shape, but I don't know what the timeline of recovery from the surgery, if he's cleared to wrestle or if he would be, but he would, it's been around the timeline you would think that he might be close to being able to return, but with a neck injury, you just never know. But he's one. In terms of outside people, a lot of speculation that Jay White's contract is coming up with New Japan. He could be in the mix, but he does have, similar to Sasha Banks, at least one more New Japan match still announced to come at that same show Sasha Banks is on in February. I can't talk. That she's on in February, so he seems unlikely. But I mean, if it's a situation where his contract expired, but he's going to fulfill his dates, he could show up maybe. I don't think so though. But he's the only kind of like outside guy that I could really think of that would have any kind of shot of potentially being able to be there that they might put into the Royal Rumble. Like I think a lot of the people that might be available, might be free agents, would be more go to NXT first type people. He seems like if he's kind of the one floating maybe potential possible free agent that's out there that would go straight to the main roster. But like I said, he's announced for a New Japan show at least through February, so it would have to be some situation where he's booked but not under contract and maybe is gonna still do it. But I don't know. That happened once with Carl Anderson, but Carl Anderson's a lot different than letting him go back to New Japan and drop a title is a lot different than letting Sasha Banks go wrestle in New Japan or letting Jay White go back and wrestle a match in New Japan. Matt Cardona's a possibility, although I think like it seems unlikely he would go back just because he's built up such a thing with all his podcast and YouTube and the live shows and events and stuff he does. WWE seems to still be restrictive on letting their talent do those type of things on their own. So I don't know that he would give up all of that if he had to go back to WWE, but he definitely seems like a guy who would be interested in going back to try again under the new creative now that Vince isn't in charge for now. But I don't know. He seems to almost be like overly teasing that he might be coming back to the point that makes me think he's not coming back, but he's a possibility for sure. Two celebrities that I think are in the mix to be in the match. They always have to have at least one celebrity show up in the match. I think Bad Bunny's going to always be in the mix with WWE now. He seems to be one of their go-to guys when it comes to celebrity involvement. And the more interesting, more possible, maybe not possible, intriguing one could be Pat McAfee. He left WWE to essentially start the process of becoming the next Lee Corso on College Game Day for ESPN. College football's wrapped up right now. That it was always kind of said that he would likely be coming back to WWE in some capacity once college football season ends. A Royal Rumble return would make a lot of sense for that to be his big moment to come back into WWE. Shows up, either just has an appearance, gets thrown out, and then he's back on the commentary team next Friday, or set him up for another celebrity match at next year's WrestleMania, or at this year's WrestleMania. I'd put him into the Titus O'Neal, Edge category of those three are guys who I would almost expect to definitely be in the mix for some of the open spots that we don't know yet. Those three are my safest bets. Now, two big ones if you follow, the WWE, the wrestling news online, the rumors, the potential spoilers, the two big ones that are in the mix potentially, but I mean, the two biggest names probably in the modern era of wrestling: Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. They're basically non-stop rumors that as soon as The Rock will greenlight doing the match, WWE wants to do The Rock versus Roman Reigns at a WrestleMania. Been rumors for at least the last three Manias that they wanted to do it. I think they wanted to do it all the way back in 2020, but that one there was never going to happen there because they weren't going to have him in The Rock wrestle in a warehouse. The next year, 2021, when it was kind of like a half capacity Mania, they weren't going to do it then. Last year could have potentially been a possibility, but not quite for whatever reason. But this one was the year it always made the most sense to me because it's LA, it's The Rock, it's movie star Rock in Los Angeles. The branding of WrestleMania, they revealed today the sign. WrestleMania sign is going to be up inside the Royal Rumble Arena at San Antonio for the first time. They're going with the branding of WrestleMania goes Hollywood again. So I mean, Rock in Hollywood makes a lot of sense. But Dave Meltzer reported a week or so ago that The Rock, his latest, communication to WWE was that he was not going to have time with his schedule to adequately prepare physically for the match, to get in shape. He's the last two times The Rock wrestled, when he wrestled John Cena, he got injured in both matches. So he apparently told them that he's not available. That's not 100% set in stone. Everything can change. Things change all the time in wrestling. Meltzer's not 100% right in his reporting all the time. He's seemed to always have a pretty close, ear to the ground on things involving The Rock, though. So unless The Rock is just completely trying to throw everybody off, I kind of want to think this one's probably got some accuracy to it. But I mean, it definitely feels like if The Rock's not going to do this one, then we can probably close the door on him. I mean, you can never close the door on anything in wrestling, but it feels like this would be the one where if he's going to do one, main event, WrestleMania, Los Angeles against his family member, Roman Reigns, it's the most logical match he could possibly come back for at the most logical time possible. I'm not closing the door on it just because of the Meltzer report, because even if The Rock said at that moment in time that he wasn't coming back, that he wasn't, going to be able to do it, he could change his mind. But he also could have just, he could know that if Meltzer reports that, it makes it even more surprising when he does come back. So it's entirely possible we get to 30 and it's like, number 30, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Or if you smell, whatever it is. So I can't completely close the door on it. If he's in, he's winning the Royal Rumble and he's going to main event against Roman Reigns, because that is the most logical match that they could possibly do for The Rock if he's coming back for one more match. But the reports seem to indicate that he's not coming back. So another reason that I think it would make a lot of sense for him to come back is he's about to launch his version of the XFL, and it'd be a pretty good opportunity for him to promote his version of the XFL if he's able to come out and be like on TV, on WWE TV a lot over the next like few months, promoting the match with Roman Reigns, but also being like promoting that he's relaunching the XFL. I don't know. The reports, the rumors, the inside scoop seems to be that he's not coming back, but I don't think you can close the door on it entirely, just because I think he would want it to be a surprise if he was coming back, but seems unlikely. Stone Cold came back. He had a match last year on occasions where he was very happy with it. WWE was very happy with it. He was supposedly, open to the idea of doing more after how well his match last year with Kevin Owens went. He's been posting IG videos all over the last few months where he's looking in like the best shape he's looked in years. Everybody's been saying, "Oh my God, look how good of shape Stone Cold's in. Is he working out to come back for another match?" He said, "No, I'm just trying to like be in good shape. I'm just trying to be in good shape, you know. But there's been reports out from Fightful, from Meltzer, from other sources that he's been offered matches at WrestleMania for large amounts of money against both Roman Reigns at one point in time and Brock Lesnar. I love Stone Cold. I'd love to see Stone Cold come back and wrestle. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to fight Roman Reigns because doesn't have the same like family storyline connection that the Rock one would, and you're probably not going to have Stone Cold beat Roman Reigns. So do you really want to see Stone Cold come back to lose to Roman Reigns? Probably not. Lesnar, on the other hand, is a little bit more intriguing, a little more attractive. That's sort of like a big dream match that's been teased at times when it seemed like Stone Cold was never going to come back, though. But now that he's maybe potentially in the mix and considering maybe potentially doing a match, that's probably the one you would go with. I think if you're going to do a match with Stone Cold at WrestleMania, it's got to be especially like a real match, like an announced match, not like what they did with Kevin Owens, where it was the KO show that turned into a match unexpectedly, even though it had been reported for a long time that it was going to be a match. I think there's two matches you can do with Stone Cold at this point in time if you're going to do a match. It's got to be either Brock Lesnar or John Cena. John Cena, of course, is a possibility to return in this match. He seems to be leaning back into the mix about being a little bit more active in wrestling for at least this little stretch of time. He's the cover athlete for WWE 2K23. Certainly some rumors and speculation that he's penciled in to face Austin Theory at WrestleMania. But if you could do Austin Theory versus John Cena, or if you could do John Cena versus Stone Cold, which would you do? I'd probably do John Cena versus Stone Cold, but I would also probably do Stone Cold versus Lesnar before I do that. But apparently there's been no clear indication of if Stone Cold has accepted any match or any return at all. I would expect him for the Royal Rumble. I mean, like, it's in San Antonio, Texas, so the idea of him showing up in the Royal Rumble in Texas would be huge, but he was so reluctant for so many years to come back and wrestle. And it seemed like everything, he barely agreed to do it last year, to the point they couldn't even announce it as a match until they were actually in the ring and were going to do the match. I don't see him being the type that would come back for the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. I think if he's coming back, it's going to be one-off matches. That'd be my speculation, my guess. I also don't think he's going to come back in a Royal Rumble unless he's going to win the Royal Rumble, you know, so same as The Rock. If he's in it, he's going to win it, but I don't think he's going to be in it, so I think you can cross that one off. So I think my two speculations, there's only two people. Oh, there's the third. I have the third person who is not currently announced as a participant in the Royal Rumble, who could very well be in the Royal Rumble, is Sami Zayn. He's had this storyline going where he wants to be a part of the bloodline. He wants to be a part of the family with Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo Sikoa. They've slowly but surely let him in, but there's been uneasiness. Is he with us, or is he actually with Kevin Owens? Is he eventually going to betray us? Are they eventually going to betray him? It's kind of been the biggest running storyline WWE has done in a very long time. Like, they haven't done like long-term storylines like this one in a very long time. And for the entirety of it, I thought the end game was eventually somehow he was going to end up back with Kevin Owens, and the culmination match wasn't going to be Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns. It was going to be Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos for the tag titles, because the Usos have the same thing going that Roman has, where they've got this long, unstoppable reign as tag team champions. Who can dethrone them? The reunited Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens always made sense. This is what's going to happen. Eventually, either the Usos or the Bloodline's going to turn on Sami Zayn, or he's going to turn on them to align with Kevin Owens, and that's going to be the match, to the Usos versus Zayn and Owens. But it feels like in the last month, really even maybe just the last couple weeks, there's been a lot more momentum behind Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns. Because, you know, they teased that Roman was going to have him kicked out in the trial of Sami Zayn Monday. Apparently ratings for that whole segment and the tag match that followed, the Sami Zayn part of it, were huge. The whole thing is starting to have a little bit of the Daniel Bryan build to WrestleMania 30 vibe to it, where Sami Zayn's the popular underdog type thing. Sami Zayn himself even had an interview with Ariel Helwani today, where he said, he doesn't think he has to win the Royal Rumble and face Roman Reigns. He doesn't think there'll be the Daniel Bryan type revolt that we saw after Daniel Bryan didn't win the Royal Rumble to go to WrestleMania 30. Um, him talking about that almost is weird. Like he's always been like a very honest, straight shooter in interviews. He's not somebody that's like out there kind of working or kind of whatever you want to call it. But him even bringing that up in this interview with Ariel Helwani is very interesting in terms of what it could mean, what it could lead to. And earlier this week, I think I was talking with a friend. And I was like, yeah, I don't see it as like it's been a big storyline. It's been a big thing, but I don't see Sami Zayn having the same level of being over, fully having like just the crowd just desperate to see him win the way Daniel Bryan did back then. But you've got till April 2nd and 3rd, I think, or April 1st and 2nd, whenever WrestleMania is, if Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble, to turn that story up, to crank it up, to really get it going, to really push it forward, to really light a fire under him and really push him forward as this guy. Because, it's the most, in terms of the storyline, it's the story that makes the most sense is Sami Zayn wins. And then you've got the next phase of Sami Zayn, the bloodline type thing. But if he wins the Royal Rumble before, it kind of doesn't make sense because it feels like the bloodline would have to turn on him first. Because if he wins the Royal Rumble, like right now, the way the story is, they would kind of be like, you weren't supposed to do this, you got to lay on the sword, you can, whatever. I don't know. I'm sure there's a way they can make it make sense. There's a way they can build to it and make it really cool. They've got plenty of time between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania to do that. But it feels like the plan has always been Sami and Kevin Owens getting back together to face the Usos. But that was when it seemed like it was going to be maybe Roman and The Rock, because that was the natural kind of bloodline head of the table match, was Rock versus Roman Reigns, that you could push the Zayn and Owens part of it over to the tag team. Now, if The Rock's not there, storyline-wise, Sami Zayn makes the most sense. But the other part of it is, you've had the belt on Roman Reigns for almost, by the time we get to WrestleMania, I believe it'll be over 1,000 days that he's been the world champion. So wherever you have beat him, it's going to be a big moment. It's going to be somebody that you're trying to really spark something with. And that's why Cody makes sense, because Cody came back with the, specifically he's been in every promo basically since he's back talking about he came back to win the title. And he's a guy, we saw him in AEW. He was very much happy to be the face of AEW, even though he was never world champion there. He was the guy that would do all the media, would go around, be on podcasts, be on talk shows, promote the brand. Roman Reigns, he's phased into a more limited schedule. If it's time to take the belt off him and put it on somebody who can be the face of the company, could be the guy that carries the brand, that is the lead face of the brand, Cody makes sense in that regard. More so than Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn makes sense in storyline if you're finishing up the storyline with the bloodline. But in terms of what you're trying to do with the company, with the brand as a whole, Cody makes sense. It's a three-way race for me. I think Cody is the most likely because I don't think The Rock's coming back. And I think the Sami, Kevin Owens, Uso thing is the plan there. But there's definitely some momentum to where if you wanted to do Sami Zayn, if they said, hey, we've got something here, this has kind of been an organic, natural thing that's grown, let's not do what we used to do and try to kill that. Let's go with it, let's embrace it, let's, not treat the fans like stupid marks and tell them we don't care what they think, like they did with Daniel Bryan. There's a chance they can go with Sami Zayn, keep telling that story, keep building it up, make him bigger, make him even higher level than he is now, and really go for it with him. It's possible. I would go, I think there's three choices. It's got to be Cody, Sami Zayn, or The Rock. The Rock's like a 5% chance because I don't think he's going to be there. But if he's there, he's winning. So it's going to be him. if he's there. But I think there's only a very small chance he's even involved. Cody, I would go 55% chance it's Cody, and a 40% chance it's Sami Zayn. I don't know if I did the right math on that. Those numbers might have not added up. But either way, it's going to be very intriguing to see what actually happens, who actually wins it, because even though I think there's only 3 contenders, and only one of those contenders is actually announced to even be in the match right now, it'll be intriguing to see how it plays out and see what they ultimately do. It's fun that WWE is kind of fun again, that they're kind of doing good stories, that they're making things intriguing. Like this time last year, like I feel like I barely even cared about the Royal Rumble or what was going to happen. Like, I was interested because it's always going to be interesting for the Royal Rumble, but I definitely didn't have the level of intrigue going into it that I do this year. So that's a good thing. The one sort of weird complication that could hurt Sami Zayn. I don't hurt Sami Zayn. This is just like completely out of nowhere speculation, but there's obviously the big rumor that came out a couple weeks ago that WWE was leaning towards selling to Saudi Arabia. Now, due to his heritage, due to his genealogy, due to his I don't know what the right word I'm looking for here is, but Sami Zayn has never been allowed to go to the WWE shows in Saudi Arabia because he's, I don't even remember what exact, I don't want to speak out of turn, but there's something in his genealogy, something in his heritage that is not allowed in Saudi Arabia. And I don't think he'd go anyway because it doesn't seem like something he would do because of just the general negativity of them, the way they treat him, the way they treat certain types of people. So if the Saudi Arabia purchase, it was obviously didn't happen, but it's one of those things. I did a video all about it, and I said where there's smoke, there's fire. There had to be something to it for it to have busted up and been as rampant of a rumor as it was. If you're Triple H, if you're in charge of creative, Vince McMahon's back in some capacity, supposedly not involved in day-to-day operations, supposedly not involved in creative. But if you're Triple H, you have to know some of what's moving behind the scenes in terms of where the sale's going, and if a possible sale is going to be to Saudi Arabia. Do you say, I can't put the title on Sami Zayn because we might be getting sold to Saudi Arabia? Or do you say, I'm not happy about the situation that we might be sold to Saudi Arabia. I'm putting the title on Sami Zayn as kind of an FU to that whole situation. That's an entirely interesting wrinkle. I don't know if it has any bearing on anything. I don't know if it's, the sale, that rumor came and went really quickly, but I mean, like I said, it was too hot of a rumor to there not been a little bit of something to it. Like, obviously, the sale of WWE is not going to happen overnight. It's going to be something that'll be negotiated and discussed heavily between multiple bidders and ultimately, but there had to have been something that sparked that rumor coming out. So if you're Triple H, you're deciding who's going to win the Royal Rumble. You're deciding who's going to go main event WrestleMania, who's going to win the world title. If there's anything that you know of that's going on with a potential sale to Saudi Arabia, what impact does that potentially have on Sami Zayn's involvement? That just now creeped in my head just now. That completely threw me for a curveball. You got to see live me just getting thrown for a curveball off of that one. But all right, whatever. We've speculated a lot. We've kind of rambled. We've talked a little bit. I'm going to go back through everything, and I'm going to give my official predictions. All right, so first match, we're going Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's Championship. I am predicting that Alexa Bliss will win over Bianca Belair. Some type of tie-in with Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy in that match, which means It'll tie into whatever the heck the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match is. I don't know what that match is. No idea what's going to happen, but it'd be insane for Bray Wyatt to not win since it's his first match back after his big return. Roman Reigns, world champion, undisputed WWE Universal Champion against Kevin Owens. Should be an awesome match. Roman Reigns retains. Women's Royal Rumble, I'm sticking with my earlier prediction. Becky Lynch wins the Women's Royal Rumble. Men's Royal Rumble match. This one's tough. I'm going with Cody Rhodes. That's my official prediction. Those are your final predictions for Royal Rumble. I'm going to watch the match. I'm going to do some vlogging while I'm watching the match. You'll probably get a video Sunday of my reactions to the show. And once we have the official winners, everything locked in from the Royal Rumble, I'll give my way too early initial Wrestlemania predictions. So make sure you subscribe to the channel with the bell turned on for notifications so you get alerted when that video comes out. If you're watching the Royal Rumble tomorrow, let me know in the comments down below. If you're watching this on replay, who do you think's winning these matches? What do you think's going to happen? Give me your predictions. Thanks for watching. More to come in the future.